Rob, you have some follow-up here from Lewis.
Yes.
What does Lewis have to tell us about pizza?
Well, firstly, this follow-up is 7 years old. This is from episode 1.
Oh, it's follow-up. Yes, it is. It is from episode 1. It's the pizza that we had. Was this the one with the hamburgers in the crust?
It was, and Lewis noted that the original article that we've linked to a few times, said that this pizza was 2,800 calories. And Lewis pointed out that a normal or a stuffed crust pepperoni from Domino's is over 3,000.
Wow!
So this burger pizza is not. It's basically healthy.
It's health food. Is what Lewis is telling us, that it's health food and we shouldn't feel bad about eating it. Thank you, Lewis.
Yeah, that's exactly what Lewis has done. So I appreciate that.
I'm here to thank Lewis then. That's good to know. It's good to know. I haven't had Domino's. Here's the story for you. Domino's was founded in the town that I grew up in called Ann Arbor, Michigan. And it was a little college town pizzeria for a long time that was very, very good and very well loved in town. And then it ballooned and went, I guess, global. I mean, primarily the United States, but other places as well. And the quality went downhill very precipitously. I would consider it to be pretty poor pizza myself. And the guy who was the owner, at one time he owned the Detroit Tigers baseball team. He built a giant corporate campus not too far from where I grew up, and he called it Domino's Farms. He had buffalo on his farm. He had a group of monks who tended to his buffalo, and on the yes, a group of monks. And he had plans to build something called the Leaning Tower of Pizza, which was going to be something like a 40-story skyscraper in what is a little college town that has no real particular. I mean, there are probably some buildings that are like 10, 15 stories, something like 10. Probably 10 is about the tall. 10 stories, probably the biggest building in Ann Arbor. And he was going to build this enormous leaning tower skyscraper on the outskirts of town in the middle of a cornfield, basically, with buffalo roaming around it. The tower never got built. The buffalo did come. I don't know what has become of the monks, but the campus, I believe, still houses Domino's, but it is also used. It's also kind of like an office park now. A lot of other people have businesses and offices in there. So it's just like a pretty typical suburban office building now. But that's a little fun fact for you about Domino's Pizza.
That was nice. No, that was good.
Yeah, that was a good little
in the show notes.
Little trivia right there.
That wasn't in the show notes or anything.
No, it wasn't. Right off the top of my head. How about it? Hey, I tried a snack this week.
Go on.
I tried pickle flavored almonds on the recommendation of my son, who was home for spring break from college.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? They're really good. They're really, really good. These were, I guess you can buy them. He knows where to find all the oddball snacks, and these are straight from the gas station, not too far from my home, about a mile away. And he went in there, got these, and they have a nice dusting of dill and salt and vinegar flavor on them. They were good. They were good. I would highly recommend trying pickle flavored almonds.
I'm thinking about this. I don't even know if I like pickle flavor on things. I know I do.
I'm a big fan of
pickles in a burger.
Oh yeah, I'm a pickle fan. I really like pickles. I like all sorts of pickles.
Yeah, no, this is pickle flavored almonds. This is interesting. You're finding all the good stuff, aren't you?
I have. I did send you. I saw on Mastodon someone posted about, what was it? Rudy Tooty strawberry flavored pancake potato chips. That's like way over the top. I have not seen these. Lay's apparently makes pancakes with strawberry topping flavored potato chips.
Have we been April Fooled?
Oh,
is it from yesterday?
Oh, Rob.
Oh, we've been April Fooled.
Oh no. Given.
Oh,
No?
No, it was posted today, not yesterday.
Okay.
So
See, worried
maybe
me
not.
there. I hope I... You never know with
I
potato
know,
chips.
Well, no, because I've had ice cream flavoured Monster Munch, so nothing particularly surprises me.
Well, if anybody listening has seen these potato chips, let me know. I will, hunt them down and give them a try. I have not seen them at my local supermarket, but maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll turn up some point.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not an April Fool's, because to make us look foolish.
I know. It's not hard to do. I mean, we don't need to be any more foolish than we already are, really.
No, we don't need a day for that.
No, that's every day of the year, thankfully. Or maybe not so thankfully for our sakes. But all right, we have actual topics that don't involve pizza and potato chips or almonds.
Yeah, that is true.
Web topics. And I have something that I want you to explain to me, because I have seen, especially thanks to you, I have seen that there is a debate surrounding something called web mentions and whether they should be included on your website or not, and how to use them and how not to. And the more I looked at it, the more I got a general sense of what was going on. But then I got very confused, so I thought I'd have you explain it to me on the show.
Yeah, so I will say off the bat, I think even in my articles that I've put on my site, my posts, I've probably got this mixed up as well, at least a few times. So a web mention, and then that is like the actual definition of this is you, John, you write an article on Mac Stories and you link to my website. So, oh, Rob's done this cool thing, go check it out.
Right.
And then you would send a web mention to me with, the URL to your post. And by send to me, I mean send to my server.
All right, so it's just something that's in the header of my article, is what you're saying. Or
yeah,
not?
More or less. So you,
okay.
So you have to set it up to, you've posted a new article, and then it would check, oh, what links are in here? Let's let people know that they've been links.
I see. Okay.
And then I could go, oh great, I've got these new web mentions. I can show all these links, at the bottom of my post or something if I wanted to.
Right.
That seems pretty simple. Like it's very similar to what did they used to call it, pingback, which was totally a thing,
right,
like 15 years ago.
Yeah, right. I remember that. Okay, no, this makes sense. This is just like it's just an extension of linked posts that allows the person who's linked to realize that they've been linked, because you don't always know.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Is if you came to me and said, Rob, you need to define what web mentions are. That's what web mentions are. There are some extensions of that, so you can do a lot of the things that you can see on Mastodon, like a like. No, you can't. No, now I'm confusing myself. Right. So I've explained web mentions. That's it.
Right.
That's all there is to it. But what a service like Bridgie does, which I've mentioned before, I think, on the show, you connect this to your Mastodon account, and previously this used to work on Twitter as well. If you had a tweet or a tweet, I guess, when it was Twitter, and it had a link to one of your blog posts on it, it would convert any replies to that into web mentions. So it'd be like, oh look, you've got this web mention, and it's actually you replying to my article and saying, right, oh, this is great, well done.
Right. This is where the controversy starts coming in, and it is where I have seen the context in which this first appeared to me, because I thought, oh, that's an interesting use of the internet. This could be an interesting way to kind of incorporate comments to a website without actually having comments on your website.
Yeah. And in theory, that works pretty well. Like you can essentially, Bridgie takes those replies and converts them to the same format as a web mention. So, okay, that all seems pretty nice. I can pull those in, show them on my website. Where the problem comes in is that if you reply to me and then I put that on my website, you have no idea that I've done that.
Right.
You have no control over it. Like, if you then delete your reply, unless my system was particularly sophisticated and was checking every single reply to see if it still existed, your reply is going to exist forever on my website.
Yeah, because it's not like an embed. It's actually a reformatted version of the Mastodon post that's being republished on somebody's website, right?
Exactly. So in my case, because I was doing this on my website, in my case I was storing those in a database, and then when my site was built I could load in the comments, right. I guess is probably the better way to describe it. And then I saw some people sort of talking about the privacy angle of it, and I wrote a post and a few other people did. You've linked to Mike's post, which we'll put in the show notes as well, because he sort of had similar thoughts to what I have, that it doesn't seem right to, especially without your knowledge, put a reply to me on my website, and I guess in some ways, like, it's kind of open to abuse as well, because you could just keep replying to all my posts and they're just going to show up on my website regardless.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think on the one hand, I look at it and, like, superficially, I think, well, what's wrong with this? These are public posts, and public posts are public posts. It doesn't really matter whether they're showing up in Ivory or on Mastodon, your Mastodon instances, website, or on your website, or wherever they happen to be. But on the other hand, really, that's not really what's going on. These are republications of those posts. And I think that's where the problem lies, right? Is that it's not, if it were an embed and somebody took down their posts, it would disappear because it would be being pulled directly from the source, from the server, as opposed to being replicated in a format that will show up at the bottom of your website. And I can see how that I think introduces a lot of interesting potential problems, including maybe someone just doesn't want their stuff that they're publishing on their own personal Mastodon server. They don't really want it to be republished. That's essentially the equivalent of their microblog or whatever it is. I mean, that's the whole idea, right? Is that, and should people be republishing in its entirety someone's work that way?
Yeah, and I feel like the non-privacy angle that I was seeing as well when I was sort of coming to these conclusions was, I'm not sure how much value, you come to a post on my website, oh great, you can see the replies from everybody on Mastodon, but a lot of the time, like, if somebody sent me an additional link and said, oh, this is really useful and is related to what you've just written about, I would probably update the post to include that link and say, oh, thanks John for sending me that, or whoever. I would include it.
Right.
So I don't necessarily think there's as much value in seeing those replies underneath the post as because they're not blog comments. Somebody hasn't explicitly gone out their way to comment on a post. They're just replying to a link. I think there is a distinction there.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because I think, like, the publisher in me thinks it's an interesting idea mainly because I don't really want comments on my site, but I do feel like there are useful things people have to say that are being published other places other than on the site. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I totally get the issues that it raises too. So I don't think it's something that I would probably do myself, but yeah, it's interesting. I think that the core technology, though, of just webmentions, kind of the pure version that doesn't involve Mastodon or any other social service, makes a lot of sense, letting people know that they've been referenced somewhere, because I think that that's a valuable thing to know if you're running a website. But yeah, the Mastodon angle is very, very interesting. There's a lot of nuance to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's like I say, it's been a lot of articles, and we're going to put a few of those in the show notes as well, just related to this.
Very good, very good. I wanted to raise really quickly, we've talked about this before, but I thought that Adam's post on Neatnik about the Fediverse was a very good one, because it's an expansion on a previous article about Mastodon instances blocking Meta and Threads because of Meta's past and present, and people not liking Meta, which, I mean, I don't think we have to go in depth on why that neither of us are particular fans of Meta. We don't really use we don't use Facebook. I do use Threads and Instagram, but I do kind of fall in line with Adam's thinking here about how, this is like, it really, to me, it runs very counter to what Mastodon's supposed to be all about. And it really feels like people, when they say they're going to block Threads just because of Meta, it does feel a little bit like it's open unless you agree with us, and then it's not open. And there are degrees of open. I mean, there are obviously things that should not appear on any social media. There always should be some sort of content moderation, and there are things that shouldn't appear anywhere. On the other hand, that's not what this is about. This is just about completely cutting off Threads from ActivityPub servers out of unhappiness with Threads, and that has nothing to do with the people who might be using Threads, which I think is a different issue altogether. But I think it's worth reading this article because it does go into a little more depth about what Adam's thinking is on this stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. And for those who don't know, Adam runs the instance that I'm on,
right?
So I think for him, it's more important than it is for, say me, for example, because I'm not running an instance. He has to think about this stuff because, the instance has 1,000 users or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a significant amount of people. So it's important that he doesn't just make a decision that if it was just him, he could do whatever he wants. But he needs to think about it in the abstract and a little bit more, okay, this is going to affect a lot of people, whatever decision he makes either way there. And to add on to this, Matt had a good blog post, and I think he sort of accidentally came across this because he was trying to just explain Federation and Threads, and he did the sort of classic comparison to email. Mm-hmm. And as I was reading it, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't block Gmail just because Google's terrible. It doesn't make any sense, and that's what that's what this feels like to me.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree.
Certainly at the moment. I'll link Matt's post as well. Like I say, I don't think that was the intent of his posts because he was trying to just explain Federation, but it's a really good point.
Yeah, no, I think it is. I think it's a pretty apt analogy between the way the two services work. That one that I think a lot more people can relate to who maybe aren't as familiar with how ActivityPub or Fediverse kind of works in general. I find the Threads thing very interesting now that they have federated. I turned it on with my account, and I'm trying to be, I guess, more careful about posting different things in different places so that I'm not flooding Mastodon with two of everything that I post. The reason I'm on both and why I'm going to stay on both is that they're very different crowds. And having joined Mastodon first, there are a lot of people there who I know will never probably go to Threads. And I also feel like there are a lot of people on Threads who will never go to Mastodon and will probably not bother to deal, to follow someone from the other service through Federation anyway. And so I do feel in a way, a little stuck, but I always kind of feel like I treat them differently enough. I was already treating them differently enough that I don't really have a problem with it. I think they serve different purposes for me, I guess. And while I there was a certain nice simplicity of the times when Twitter was really just about the only option. The fact that I'm split across multiple things now is okay. I don't mind. I mean, it's good to have options. And I even started taking a peek at Blue Sky now once in a while again, because I signed up for it a long time ago and I didn't like it, but it's obviously opened up now, and so it's evolved over time, and I'm curious just to see what's become of it, and wondering whether it's something that I should also be doing a little bit more with, because I really haven't posted much of anything over there at this point.
Yeah, one of the things I hit this week, I'm following Stephen Hackett's Threads account from Mastodon.
Yeah,
and I have replied to him twice.
Oh, you can't tell who it is.
Forgetting forgetting that he can't see the reply.
Well, he can,
or doesn't know who it's from.
Yeah, I don't know about reply. Yeah, he can see it, but it'll say it's like a Fediverse person, and I've seen that. I mean, I have only just turned it on like not that long ago, and I don't use Threads as actively as I do Mastodon, so I haven't had as many notifications coming in from Mastodon at this point. But yeah, it's basically like it's essentially the equivalent of anonymous user Y, liked your post or said this to you. It's got a ways to go before it's like more useful than that.
Yeah, and it actually took me a couple of days. I feel like he would have replied to this if he'd seen it, and then I was like, it's gone to his Threads account, and I don't know how that shows up, or maybe he's just ignoring me. Who knows?
I don't like the way Threads handles that stuff anyway, though. I mean, kind of the default view is a conglomeration of everything, of likes and reposts, and all that stuff, and it's very messy, and it's very easy to miss stuff when you're looking at that. And you have to then kind of go over to the other tabs to see the replies and stuff to really, and yeah, I've been guilty of missing replies there a lot too, just because I don't move out of the default view, and then I never see it. So
yeah, I've got the next link up open now, and I hadn't seen this yet.
What?
And my eyes have just rolled through my head at the browser company. Like, come on. What is this website, John? Explain yourself.
Oh, Rob. It's like just when I think that this company couldn't turn me off more, they find a way to do it. And this is their website. Where is the link? I was looking at this earlier today, and it's called We Might Not Make It. And this is a series of YouTube videos that they're doing. They have this landing page for them called We Might Not Make It.tv. And they've got, 2 videos up so far, and they've got maybe 6 or 7 planned. And they all have these kind of, it's very SEO in terms of like the shouting headlines about, dire consequences and drama, which I think maybe is being done in kind of like a doubly ironic take on what the internet has become with SEO and shouting headlines, which I kind of get, but this is their take on things that might do them in and why they might not be successful. And one of the ones that's coming up is called We Ruin the Internet. That's one of the reasons they might not make it, because they may ruin the internet. And
right, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they know what they're doing, and we haven't seen this video yet, and I'm eager to see it. Honestly, I haven't actually watched these other 2 that are up, but it got me thinking, because this is something that I'm going to talk about a little bit next week on App Stories, on kind of a broader context about more stuff about where apps are heading. But one of the things that DOJ in its lawsuit against Apple for antitrust really pushes on is this notion of super apps, and that they will create competition among mobile phones, because they're like this abstraction layer that are, built on like web technologies and stuff. And because that's the case, you can just move to another, maker's phone and log into your super app, and you have the same experience. It really, it commoditizes the hardware underlying and the OS underlying the super app. And it got me thinking about what Arc is trying to do, which is really the similar thing. They're trying to commoditize the internet by abstracting away the actual websites and instead replacing them with this sheen of AI and summarized results, which I find particularly offensive as somebody making things on the internet. But to me, it's like that's what's going on with a lot of what's happening these days, that there are, I guess Arc is trying to do it trying to do a couple of things. They're trying to do an end around apps themselves by making the browser the operating system. And, that's a trend that is not really driven entirely by Arc. They're just kind of like riding the coattails of a trend where, people are working in Figma on the web, and we've had Google Docs forever and Gmail, and the web services and web apps have been around for a long time, and I don't have a problem with web apps, and I think that it's great that browsers are trying to do a better job to make them useful inside a browser tab or whatever. But Arc has kind of taken this to a different level and a different angle, with where now you can just they're considering at least the idea that search will just they're auto-generating these websites for you based on the stuff that they've scraped, basically. So you might look up, tell me about the iPhone 15 and what people think of it, and they might go out and scrape The Verge and Mac Stories and Engadget and CNET and who knows who else, and present you with an auto-generated web page that gives you a summary about what are the main features and what's good about it, what's bad about it. And yeah, they might link somewhere in there about where they got that information, but by the time you've read to the bottom, you've got the information you need, and you're never going to go to those websites, or at least a lot of people I don't think will. And it just struck me as a very similar thing, where I think it's kind of disingenuous to think that abstracting away underlying technology is necessarily always a good thing, whether you're trying to combat anti-competitive behavior or trying to become a successful browser company. That in both of these instances, the DOJ is potentially abstracting away the businesses of a bunch of independent app developers, and Arc is abstracting away the businesses of a bunch of independent websites or big online media companies. To me, it's interesting times, but I do feel like some of this is going a little bit too far.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I don't know what I'm supposed to get from this website. If let's just run down these points. Like, point number 1, we get beat to the punch. Beat to what? Like, you don't appear to have an end goal other than just keep building a browser with a bunch of features. And then number 5, this is the last one on the list, is we can't make money. Now, I'm no entrepreneur. I'm not a big businessman. The fact that isn't number 1 is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, there is that, but they're not doing it. They're not doing it now. It doesn't seem to be much of a priority. They sure don't talk about it much. I mean, I know people have told me when I've said this before that they have talked about charging for things like their AI features, but they haven't been talking about that recently. I'm convinced that they are trying to become the front end for something like Perplexity or OpenAI, that they want to get bought by an AI company to be the front end for them.
Yeah. I mean, and even number 4, we listen to our members, which implies that anybody can even give them any money.
I'm not sure what members are in this context. This one is confusing to me.
Yeah.
Do they mean users? Do they mean members of a legal entity that own the browser company?
Sure. Yeah, the board? I don't
really know. I don't really understand what that means. We'll have to wait and see when that gets published.
The one where it's like we get beat to the punch. Like, I could believe that if I could go to their website and see, right, here's our roadmap and here's like our end goal. But they don't have an end goal. They're just throwing anything and everything at it, hoping that they find something that's going to, as you say, get them bought out by somebody.
Yeah. For all the people who are upset about the Fediverse and Meta, you should know that their CEO at Arc used to work at Facebook.
Awesome.
So there's that. He seems like a really nice guy, but I also think that he is not a dummy and he knows exactly what he's doing. So,
I mean, you don't raise that kind of money if you're stupid.
Yeah, they're putting a friendly face on tearing down the internet, as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know. I'm not gonna rail on him like I did before, as badly as I did before. I just feel like it's useful to kind of understand, like, where are things heading on the internet right now? I think there's, like, you and I have talked about it a lot. There's tons of opportunities right now because, Twitter's basically a shadow of its former self, and that was really a drag on the internet. So there's tons of opportunities, but there's also a lot of people that are trying, there's a lot of these startups that are trying to, they see the opportunity, they see the hole left by Twitter and Facebook and others, and they're trying to fill it with something that potentially is much worse than what we've already had. And hopefully that doesn't happen. I'm optimistic because I see a lot of people who are I see a lot more people starting up personal blogs. I see a lot more people, a lot more small companies setting up blogging platforms or integrations with the Fediverse or, all kinds of things that are doing interesting, cool things with RSS and all kinds of open standards and, the core web technologies that anybody can build on and doing neat stuff. And I think that I think is going to be like the tug and the push and pull of the next 5 to 10 years with the internet, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I guess we'll see when these new videos come out, whenever they're coming out.
The next one.
Whatever.
There's one that's scheduled for this week. The one We Just Can't Build It is coming out on the 4th, so that's later this week.
Wow.
All right.
I look forward to finding out what it is they think they can't build.
I don't know. As far as I can tell, they build something new every week. They're, famous for putting out their releases every week. All right. Well, shipping.
Yeah.
Rob, it's been good to talk to you today.
Oh, it's always good to talk to you.
Let's get this one out on the internet.
Let's do it.
All right.
And we'll be back in a couple of weeks, as always.
Perfect. Talk to you later.